We turn to an expert who will help us read between those digits a bit more.
All right, joining us to provide us with a glimpse of what's to come and what needs to be done is Professor Shin Se-don from Sookmyung Women's University.
All right, thank you very much, Professor, for dropping by today.
Thank you for having me here.
Cool. Okay, so let's start with today's GDP figure, 3.2% on-year growth. How do you assess that? Is Korean economy picking up?
Well, I think it was a little bit of a surprise to many people looking into Korean economy because the figure actually was coming down from 3.9% first quarter and 3.5% second quarter, and now it is 3.2%. So we have three consecutive dipping down of growth rates, and the 3.2% is rather worrisome because many institutions projected that this year's growth rate will be very close to 4% at the beginning of the year, but at this phase, I think it's going to be very difficult even to achieve 3.5%. So I think the third quarter performance is rather troublesome for Korean economy in the future.
So 3.5%, that will be even lower than the government's revised outlook.
Right. Yeah, the government actually revised a couple of times. At the beginning, they projected almost 4% and then changed to 3.7%. But at this moment, 3.7% of the year, it's almost impossible, I think, because in order to achieve 3.7% growth, I think the fourth quarter growth rate has to be over 4%, which seems to be quite unimaginable.
Well, there are many variables at play right now, but if you were to give us some specifics or pinpoint it down to a main area of concern, which would it be?
Well, actually the private consumption after the Seoul ferry disaster, people concerned about the effect upon the domestic, private consumption, but, private consumption actually picked up 1.6% compared to 1.5% last quarter. So actually the private consumption is kind of, phasing out. I mean, it's not coming further down, but real trouble for the third quarter seems to be very slow investment in the facilities or plant building, because for the first half, facility investment grew 7.5%, but the current quarter it was 3.9%. So it's almost half the rate in the facility investment. I think that's shocking me. And another point that I have to emphasize is the performance in the export area, because first half of the this year, the export was growing about 3.7%, but the third quarter figure shows 2.1%. So if you look at the general trend, it is pretty evident that the growth rate in the export is coming down, and maybe one of the prime reasons for that is the effect of the weaker yen that has been going on for a couple of years. And so if this kind of slowdown in the growth of exports continue next year, I think the next year growth figure may be a little worse than what we see this year today.
So what about the earnings, the third quarter earnings from the nation's two big conglomerates, Samsung Electronics and Hyundai Motor? They both posted rather disappointing figures.
A lot worse than disappointing, because kind of I think it was in the case of Samsung, operating profit dropped to almost 60% year to year, and in the Hyundai Motor Corporation case, the profit dropped to 18%, and it is more than a shock to the people. And of course, the main reason for that is the yen has and also the Korean currency has been strong, for the major part of this year. The exchange rate has been going down, and export sales to the global market has been having a trouble because of the Japanese competition. So I think it's a complication of factors, but one thing for sure is the two leading companies in Korea are having serious trouble, and we are not expecting that to be improved in the coming year.
Seems like we are just heading into more troubles and troubles at this moment.
Right. I mean, we've seen the demigods of Korea's corporate structure bleed a little bit, so that's definitely cause for us to be concerned. So where do we go from here, planning our steps forward? How should we carefully plot our next move?
Well, that is a very important question. So far the team in charge of economic affairs, Mr. Choi Kyung-hwan, and he tried to initiate a number of projects or packages, but I think they are lacking some focal points in the sense that we have a trouble in the big, as he mentioned, the demigods, and the export is showing some trouble, and investment is showing trouble. So in all areas, Korean economy seems to have a significant, serious problem, and so the government has to supply sufficient measures and packages to all areas which are having trouble, and it's going to be very difficult because tax revenues, about 8% behind the schedule, and it is pretty sure that this year the budget deficit is going to be tremendous, as it was last year, and also it is very difficult to raise funds in the market because it's going to raise market rate, so the lack of revenues, budget deficit, right? So I think the government is pretty much constrained to do something very active to stimulate the economy.
So there's a gloomy outlook there, and then we would like to talk more, but unfortunately that's all the time we have left for today. Thank you very much for your analysis today, Professor Shin.
Thank you. Thank you very much.